Hi, I'm Chris Taylor, founder of Actionable.co, where we've been spending the last 10 years or so working with organizations to help overcome this stat. This stat, 70% of change programs fail, popularized by McKinsey and validated over and over and over again, has been a point of concern for most senior leadership teams around the globe. And when we start to dig into why this stat is so high, why so many change management programs fail, we find various pieces of information, various reasons for being. According to MIT and the London Business School, 2/3 of managers can't articulate their organization's top three priorities. The suggestion being that there's too much noise. There's too many sound bites coming from senior leadership for people to know what it is they're supposed to be working on. Harvard Business Review and Ernst & Young did a study that found that 46% of employees trust their companies. There's a whole lack of trust here. My senior leadership team tells me that this is where we're going as an organization. Do I trust that that is the case? Do I trust that it's not going to change 2 months from now, or that this is in the best interest of the organizations? And the third issue that we come across regularly is centralized decision making. Now, we appreciate that most organizations are set up in a traditional hierarchical structure and that decision making is made at the top. And we're not suggesting nor are we advocating for a wholesale change to that model. But as Dan Pink popularized in Drive, motivation for individuals requires a sense of autonomy and purpose. And this is important because the only way that change happens is if people choose to make change happen. Change doesn't happen to us, it's something that we create through the actions that we engage in. And if motivation requires autonomy and purpose, there needs to be a level of buy-in from all members of the organization that are going to be involved in making that change stick. So these three factors, too much noise, lack of trust, and centralized decision making, lead to some fairly major roadblocks. Effectively, employees need to know where the company wants to go, and they need to believe that this direction is one that we are committed to as an organization. From there, the individuals need to have the desire, they need to have the ability, and they need to have the environment that allows them to engage in that change process. And what do we see at the world at large? Well, for most organizations, the strategic plan is established at the top at a senior leadership level with a small group of executives and potentially some outside counsel from a consulting firm or otherwise. That strategy then gets communicated with great fanfare through the organization. There's the obligatory CEO town hall where the CEO paints the vision of the future and what they're working towards. There's a series of documents, video and audio files and text files that get posted to the intranet and distributed occasionally with organization, occasionally haphazardly through an organization. And we're expecting that individuals will take this 100,000-foot view of what the strategic plan is, that they will intellectually understand it, that they will emotionally connect with it, and that they will then take actions aligned with it. This happens and this works about 30% of the time. But 70% of the time, when most of the change fails, we've taken this megaphone approach of if we just tell them often enough what it is that we're trying to achieve, then they, the people in the organization, will get on board with this plan. Intentionally or unintentionally, that's often what happens. And we create more noise, and we create more ambiguity, and we create a greater lack of trust. What we found in the work that we've done with now over 400 companies around the globe is that there is another model, not one that replaces the top-down approach of communicating strategy and the vision, but rather complements it and brings additional components to it. We call it the cultural heartbeat, and it follows 4 distinct paths. At the beginning, we have a sense of clarity. Clarity for the senior execs who have built the 300-page deck that articulates all of the nuance of the strategic plan, but then distills it down to the 3, 4, 5, 6 key components of what everyone in the organization needs to internalize, needs to understand, needs to find personal relevance in, and needs to take action on. And by and large, most of the organizations that we work with do a pretty good job of this already. In fact, I would say many do an excellent job of this. They call them their pillars or their levers or their tenets of the change initiative, and those get communicated through. But they get communicated through from the context of the leader's vision of why this is important. And what we know from behavior science is that we need to find our own personal motivation for change, which is why the second phase of the cultural heartbeat is around inviting all members of the organization, no matter where they sit in the hierarchy, to engage in conversation. conversation with their immediate working group and ideally their manager to give them an opportunity to actually answer the question for themselves, do I care? Do I care? Where's the relevance for me in this strategic initiative? What's amazing is that this is one of the highest risk areas in the perception of senior leaders. If I ask my people if they care about this plan, what if they say no? Well, I would suggest that if that's the case, if people are given the opportunity to actually understand the strategic plan or one of the core pillars at a time, and given the opportunity to answer the question, is this relevant? Does this matter to me? And most of the organization is saying, no, it's not, then it's not going to succeed anyway. We can either bury our head in the sand and wait 12 to 18 months until our financials show that, or we can catch it early on. Thankfully, most organizations are run by intelligent people who are working on smart strategy for the best interests of the organization. And so when the strategy gets communicated through and people are given the opportunity to have a conversation to find relevance in it, they do. Statistically speaking, through the Actionable platform, we find that 92% of people, if given the opportunity to find relevance, will find relevance. And that relevance is exciting because it creates a motivation pop. There's a boost that comes from people going, you know what? I actually do care. There's that uplift of enthusiasm and excitement. We want to bottle that in the moment at which it occurs. If we wait a couple weeks, or if we assume that people are going to take that motivation and apply it, we're basically following the New Year's syndrome of people on New Year's Eve having great intention for the year ahead about healthier lifestyles and better relationships. And then, of course, by end of January, most people have abandoned their New Year's resolutions. We want to bottle it, and we do that by moving from the commitment that people have from an intellectual standpoint through what we call the habit formula, where people are making commitments to lasting behavior change. This idea of the habit formula is crafted by Michael Bungay Stanier, built off research from BJ Fogg out of Stanford, and Charles Duhigg and James Clear all play in this space as well. A really well-vetted methodology for taking intention and translating it into meaningful behavior change. Once people are engaged in the behavior change process, we want to be capturing insight. Senior leadership appreciates the fact that over time, as the strategy hits the road, there's going to be some course correcting required. We're also going to want to see as an organization which departments found their relevance, found their context, and which departments did not. We want to see what people are intending to do differently as a result of finding that relevance and understanding the strategy, and then what obstacles they're facing along the way, such that we can course correct and support the people inside the organization to bring that change to life. When we can move from this approach of top-down to a cultural heartbeat approach, we end up with a beautiful 4-stage process that brings visibility and clarity and alignment to the strategic plans, and in turn dramatically increases the likelihood of that strategic plan landing and gaining the traction that was envisioned by senior leadership in the first place. There's lots more to explore in here, and we'd love to talk to you about how Actionable could be integrated into your next change initiative to bring it to life. Reach out to your Actionable consulting partner or to us directly at actionable.co. We'll be happy to take it from there. Thanks for being here.